Transfer talk, shall we? Let's get you up to date on what we are monitoring. Of course, the big one there, Benjamin Sesko. He's a wanted man by Manchester United and Newcastle, but it looks like he will be joining the Red Devils at Old Trafford. All right, Gab Marcotti is also joining us, and fresh from his luxurious vacation, Frank Leboeuf is also joining us as well. But Gab, let's start with you on Benjamin Sesko, because it looks like Manchester United will be the place for the Slovenian striker.
Yeah, everybody seems to be reporting that he has chosen Manchester United, that's his preference. United over Newcastle, who, of course, were also strongly linked with him. And, yeah, you can all see that fee, which is a lot of money. But, you know, you're getting a guy who I think most people agree has an incredible toolkit and a really, really high upside, even though he's not coming off a particularly good season. And of course, there's a lot of questions, which I'm sure we're going to go through. How accustomed is he to leading the line on his own, and obviously how is he going to adapt to the Premier League? And he's still very young. And what actually happened last year? Was it just Leipzig kind of like dragging him down? But yeah, they've made their move, and looks like it's Sesko.
Ale, what do you make of this one? Are you a fan of this one? We spoke about it a lot on the show yesterday, and everyone was kind of questioning on whether, as Gab said, he is the one to lead that line for Manchester United, if he's good enough to carry Manchester United potentially into the top half of the table.
Well, I agree that there is a toolkit, as Gab addressed it there, that can be impressive when you see the physicality of the player, and yet you see in terms of the skill set that he's able to play with the ball at his feet, that he's able to dribble, that he's able to combine. You put all those things together and you kind of go, man, this guy is a world beater. And then you watch him play every weekend, as I was tasked to do all of last season in Bundesliga play. And I can tell you that this is a player that in moments can be outstanding. In fact, 2 or 3 games at a time can be outstanding, and then goes missing for long periods of time. Look, he was in the same front line with Luis Openda and Xavi Simons, players who in Bundesliga and really in any league should be very productive players. And when you look at Leipzig last season, part of the issue that they had is that for all the possession and ball control that they had in matches, they were unable to consistently put teams away by scoring goals consistently. And that's a word that I would use time and time again when I talk and describe Benjamin Sesko. He is inconsistent. He is yet to mature as a player, and to really mature as a player that can look to be not only the guy leading the line, but consistently, again, I'll use that word, combined with other players around him. The talent and the skill set seems to be there, but he hasn't pulled it all together just yet. If you're a Manchester United fan, you hope that that's happening sooner rather than later.
Frank, let me go to you on this one, because the offers from Manchester United and Newcastle were pretty similar. And we heard from Jan just last week when I asked him about the preference of the player, and it seemed like he always did want to go to Manchester United. If you were in his shoes, would you have chosen United now over Newcastle?
Right now, no, of course not. You know, according to what I see from Manchester United and what I saw last season, for example, and the season before from Newcastle, no, you will go to Newcastle because you know that, I would say that in terms of results, you are pretty sure that you can fight for the Champions League or the Europa League with Newcastle, where we have doubts about that club, which once have been one of the best clubs, if not the best club in the world, and is not anymore. So it's a dream for him. So let's allow him to fulfill his dream. But I have to say that no, I wouldn't go if I was him. But if I were him, sorry. But it's what he wants. And on the other side, I was listening to Alejandro. It's hard for Manchester United to catch the top of the top right now because of what I said. Because Manchester United is not the club that it used to be. So you get players who you have doubts, who can be inconsistent, and that's where the level is right now for Manchester United.
I'll tell you what, when Frank calls me Alejandro, it shook me up a little bit.
Reminds you of your dad?
Like you're in trouble?
with a French accent as well. I felt it. Did you feel it?
I felt it. Serious Frank. Full name, government name. Shaka, well, I guess if we're going to take from what Frank says, it sounds like Sesko's making a big mistake then not choosing your Newcastle.
And I most certainly would agree. Listen, I'm going to try my best not to show my bias, but to Frank's point, while Manchester United have a history about them, where they are right now is not one that leans into that history. And at 22 years old, Sesko coming to the Premier League, trying to decide between two clubs. One, at the very least, has Champions League for this season. The others are, well, last season's finish was a long way off. You just wonder if that. I thought that would have been a greater motivating factor than a history of 10 or 15 years ago, or whatever it may be. Now, also to that point, while I as a player, and again, I understand it. As a player, you always back yourself. It's part of who you are. It's part of your identity. Every single player who makes it to this level backs themselves regardless. So he sees himself as that missing piece for Manchester United to go in there and make United who they were 10 or 15 years ago, as I referenced. But now, me being on the outside looking in, I question whether that's the right move for him. He's young. I don't think he's the player to lead the line for Manchester United in that way. He's still developing, and kind of give him a lot of the dysfunction that you've seen around Manchester United. I question, again, if it's the best move for him and his development.
Gab, you heard from the boys there. Anything to add before we push on?
Yeah, no, just the flip side is from Newcastle's perspective, and this is what makes me slightly skeptical about the Newcastle side of it, is Alexander Isak is still a Newcastle player for the time being. There's no guarantee that he's going to leave, that he's going to move to Liverpool or whatever. If you're Sesko, I think you're also taking that into account. The possibility that, hey, what happens if Isak ends up sticking around? I know Isak can play on the wing, but are they really going to shift him on the wing to make room for me? So I think that played into it as well. But yeah, beyond that, I agree with you. He's a young player and he needs time to grow. And he will have asked himself, what is the right club for me to grow as a player? Is it United or is it Eddie Howe in Newcastle?
All right, well, Newcastle in a little bit of a spot of bother now, considering the fact that Alex Isak seems to be wanting out of Newcastle, probably heading to Liverpool. Sesko going to choose Manchester United again over Newcastle. So who do they go to? Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea. Is that the answer, Ale Moreno? You've seen both Sesko and Nicholas Jackson play a lot. Who would you choose?
Right. As you asked me this question, I actually will hand the floor to Shaka Hislop, who has said, when I have described Nico Jackson as a player, and I said that he could cause chaos to back lines, I believe that Shaka, and I quote, said something along the lines of, he creates chaos for his own team. So you go, Shaka, you tell me, Nico Jackson, Benjamin Sesko.
Listen, I'll be honest, the Nico Jackson option doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me, other than it being a financial one, a cheap and quick fix. But I just feel that there are other options out there.
But if Isak leaves, surely they need to go for somebody.
Absolutely, they have to go for somebody. Sesko is a preferred option. If he chooses Manchester United, then you have to start looking at elsewhere. Ollie Watkins certainly was a target of Manchester United, but they kind of were put off by his age. But if you need an immediate fix and somebody proven in the Premier League, Ollie Watkins is an option. We said Brentford, kind of given Brentford's mass departure this summer, available. He's only a year younger than Watkins, but still a viable option. For me, I just don't see Nicholas Jackson as being the person to fill any kind of void, let alone one left by Alexander Isak.
That's the serious Shaka Hislop voice going down.
Yeah. So you like Nico Jackson, so you're saying.
I like him at Chelsea.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly go to Gab on this one. Gab, who do you think is better? Because looking at their stats over the last two seasons, not that much separates them.
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest differences is that Jackson did it in the Premier League, and Jackson did it at a big club in the Premier League, like Chelsea. So I think you would take that into account. The other take, I think, in Jackson's box is that Nico Jackson can also come in from a wide area. You can stick him out on the left wing, and he can be pretty devastating. Coming inside on his right foot. So you give yourself kind of that plan B if Isak does stick around. Now, I think somebody mentioned that Jackson is the cheaper option. I don't know cheaper than who, though, because Chelsea are saying they value him at 80 million. That sounds like an awful lot of money. I think they're going to have to come down from that. They can come down from that because, of course, they've got 2 seasons of amortization under his belt, and they didn't pay a lot for him to begin with because I think they activated a clause in his contract when they signed him. Nevertheless, I just think they're very different profiles of players, and what you're going to run into and what Newcastle absolutely want to avoid is they have to get their timing right on this. What they don't want is to let Isak go and then suddenly everybody knows that they're sitting on 120 million, 130 million, and the clock is ticking, and then suddenly prices go up. For me, I don't think Jackson's is a bad signing. He's shown he can play center forward in the Premier League, and I think that means something. He obviously doesn't have the upside that Sesko has, but I thought we saw a lot of progress from him last year, especially in the first half of the season.
Take to Gab's point, I think I said Jackson's a cheaper option. I'm thinking loan. Nicholas Jackson signed, 9 years back in December, a 9-year deal or something ridiculous like that back in December. I'm already skeptical about Nicholas Jackson as any kind of a replacement.
No, really? You don't say. What?
let alone with an 8-year contract.
He's actually
that.
signed until 2033.
8 years. So let alone 8 years behind that. I'm thinking a cheaper option in that maybe a loan is Chelsea may be willing to go for a loan while Newcastle figure out exactly who that longer term replacement for Isak is.
Frank, you had a little chuckle there when you heard Gab explaining what could be the potential details of this deal. Definitely not cheaper. 80 million, though, for Nicholas Jackson. What do you think of this?
Well, I think it's time to be serious a little bit. Thank you. Come on. I mean, I wish to any players to rebound from a bad season, maybe 2 bad seasons, and I really wish to Nicholas Jackson to find a club and to show us that we shouldn't be skeptical because that guy is a tremendous striker. But as far as we have known and seen his performances, I'm sorry, I have doubts. And if I hear that a club, like I thought a club was serious enough to hire Shaka Islop at the time, would be ready to pay 80 million to get Nicholas Jackson, I'm sorry, I have doubts about the seriousness of that club because I don't think he's going to fill the hopes that the Geordies have for this season in the Champions League, and I have big doubts about his potential to make people forgetting Isak if Isak has to go. Really, I was expecting somebody else.
I want to stand up and clap and hug the agent of Nicholas Jackson, who got him signed up until 2033 with Chelsea. Well done, sir.